One of the ugly secrets that led to the overdue downfall of the NXIVM cult was the actual branding with a white-hot tool of women who entered a subgroup of sexual slavery. They were branded with the initials of NXIVM's founder and ringleader, Keith Raniere, or in some cases with those of a key accomplice, the former actor Allison Mack. Raniere was sentenced last fall to 120 years in prison, and this week a federal judge in Brooklyn ordered him to pay almost $3.5 million to 21 of his victims. Now, much of that money will go to removing those brands. Joining us now with her thoughts and her own painful experience is Jessica Joan. She hosts a podcast and wrote a soon-to-be-published book called The Untouchable Jessica Joan. Jessica, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me here, Adrienne.
Now, you wrote this book about your life, about your story, and about your instincts. Talk to us about really what led you to join in the first place. Let's begin there.
So I had a very traumatic childhood, and when you go through something like that, or at least for me, I knew that I wanted to heal, I wanted to elevate myself, and so that's what led me to taking the courses at NXIVM.
And the courses were to be used to empower you, were to be used to bring you to an elevated state of discernment and of fulfillment. But the opposite was true. I've read in articles and in speaking with you, you saw the red flags when you were asked to do things that you would never have done, including have sex with Raniere. Is that correct?
Yes.
So talk to us.
So the courses actually, I'm saying the courses weren't necessarily about discernment. What it was in a humanitarian-based human potential program to help you be your highest potential self.
Mm-hmm. But this was really a guise. I mean, this was a empowerment seminar or a conference or a tribe of people who all wanted to have a better life, but really it was to indoctrinate very well-educated, well-meaning adults. I mean, you talked to me about having people side by side with you that you consider lifelong friends. In speaking to those folks who actually stayed in this group, what kind of trauma are they experiencing?
There are many people that will forever be friends of mine because one of the things that this group did is it attracted really beautiful people that wanted to heal themselves and also wanted to help other people as well as society. And the people that are still stuck in this brainwash basically are in a high-level state of denial, and I honestly don't know what they're going through.
When you say brainwash, you have said that you were not brainwashed, but you were indoctrinated. What's the difference?
So for me, I didn't follow the hive mind mentality, which is why my story is unique to, of the other stories out there, is that because my childhood trauma and all the things that I went through, it gave me the wherewithal to handle it in the way that I did, which I didn't get branded. I didn't do anything intimate with Keith, and I got out as soon as I realized that it was not what I thought it was.
So you were actually the first woman to leave this women's only, what word do you use to describe what group you were in?
So I describe it as it was sold to me as a woman's only secret society for an empowerment mentorship program.
Mm-hmm. And you were the first to actually step away when you realized that there was something sinister below the surface. But a lot of people at home, I'm sure, are wondering what makes somebody so convinced that they need this kind of level of mentoring, that it has to be a secret for it to be so right, and yet there were what seemed to be some red flags. I mean, what convinces you you're intelligent, you're talented, you're beautiful, you're all these things, and there were others like you, and somehow there was still some duping that went on? How?
So the thing is, how they do it is they build trust. So India Oxenberg was the person who recruited me into the vow, or AKA DOS. And so prior to her inviting me in to join the vow, she built a relationship with me. She was one of my coaches in ESP. So when you go through an intensive like that, the ESP course, you're opening up your deepest secrets, your vulnerabilities under the guise that you're in a safe environment, and then you're connecting with other people. So you're already in a very vulnerable state. And for me specifically, you know, I have a very huge heart, and I was very open and I was very trusting. But at the same time, you know, I didn't let go of my intuition, and I didn't let go of these, you know, listening to my higher self, which is essentially what saved me from, you know, going down a deeper, darker path within NXIVM.
And you did listen to that discernment and that enlightenment that you had yourself, and you were able to get away without being branded. Did they come to you and say, we want to brand you? And did you say no, or were you able to escape that?
So how they do everything, it's a long game of indoctrination. They don't tell you all of these things up front, because then it'd be a huge red flag. And so when I did learn that there was something about a brand, it was actually promoted as like a tiny sisterhood tattoo that represented the elements, and that was super beautiful. And so that's in my mind what that was going to be.
It's just, there's so many sides and facets to this story. You were almost speechless over the kinds of things that went on. Did you feel that the amount that Keith Raniere has been ordered to pay to the victims is enough?
To be honest, there isn't enough money in the world that would amend, you know, the horrific experience that myself and all of the other victims went through. But what he did have to pay is at least something to provide the victims with resources to begin to put their life together, but there's not a price that you could put on this.
And what about with Allison Mack? I know when you testified, I believe she was in the courtroom. You've seen her. Do you think that 3 years in prison is enough of a penalty?
I respect the judge's decision, but personally, no, I don't think that that was enough. I looked her in the eyes in the courtroom, and I didn't see any remorse. I saw a sociopath.
Do you believe that this is truly a group that was run by sociopaths, or is there something else that you would say is their modus operandi?
I would say that at the very top, Keith, Allison, Nancy, that these people were narcissists and sociopaths.
And so, I mean, obviously, this is a very rare occurrence. It sounds stranger than life, stranger than fiction. But if there was someone who saw this coming, I mean, from the wisdom that you've gained, from what you experienced, what would you tell someone else who might be approached with a group that just doesn't seem right, or just seems like the secret society that you would want them to avoid some of the things that you went through? What advice could you give?
So there's a couple different things, and this can be applied not only to a high control manipulation group, but this can be your relationships, your family members, people at work. Like, what this was high level manipulation. And part of how they did that specifically with NXIVM is that they cut people off intentionally from their intuition. So what they did was they made you feel like your intuition didn't matter, so then they kept you just basically operating from your head up. And so when that's happening, you're not able to feel or connect to your intuition in your gut that's trying to save you, that's trying to protect you. So I would say listen to your gut, follow that, and also do not allow fear to stop you from doing what's right for you. And that's what they did. They had blackmail because we had to submit collateral, and they used fear to control everyone. And that's why I was able to get out, because I did not allow it. I did not allow that.
And I know you're going to talk about this more on your podcast, and also it's in your book about following your gut. And anything else you want to share with us about those upcoming projects?
Yes, so my book is coming out August 31st. It's available for pre-sale right now. And what my story goes into, it goes into my life, my childhood, all the different traumas and the adversity that I was able to overcome, and with tools and how to navigate through that, and how going through those traumas is what led me into NXIVM, but going through those traumas is also what helped me get out of it safely. And I'm just very excited, and my podcast is out. We just wrapped the first season, and, you know, you can go on my journey with me.
All right, Jessica Joan, thank you so much. We're glad you're safe, and we certainly hope the best for you as you reinvent your path, as well as the others who were affected by this strange and twisted cult. Thank you so much for coming on.